Hey guys, it's Kurt with Roundbox Fitness, and today we're going to be tackling hip exercises for knee pain. So, having been training since 1999, I've seen a lot of people with knee pain. So, athletes, sedentary people, you name it. It's one of those very, very delicate joints that tends to have problems, whether it's from sitting too still or doing too much. So, there's a lot of exercises and programs out there to help with that, and those are awesome. But what we have found is if we attack muscles around the problem area, that helps a lot. And one of those areas are the hips. So basically what we have with the knee joint, it's a hinge joint, it does this. So we definitely want to strengthen those ranges. But we found a lot of success if we strengthen the structure above it, the hips, ball and socket joints. That does wonders for knee pain. So when we're addressing the hip, there are several movements we need to teach the hip to be strong and flexible in. So the first is a flexion extension. So we're using the glutes and hip flexors. And you want to think forward and backwards motion on that. Next up, we have adduction, abduction, and all that means just side to side. So we're getting your inner thigh, your adductors, and on the way out, we're getting your glute medius. And so the last one, and kind of overlooked and important one, is circumduction. And that's where we're training all those muscles that I just mentioned in a very circular and fluid pattern. These are kind of cool, bigger dynamic motions. You'll see it in sports and movement. So when we're training the hip to be strong and flexible in all those ranges we just covered, there's several pieces of equipment and options you can use. You have those furniture and fitness sliders. Those work great. It's a nice gliding resistance. And if you want to even go lower budget than that, if you can just use rags on a smooth surface, that works just as well. So as effective as those are, we found we needed a little more weight, something a little more substantial to use, and that's why we came up with our own invention. The Racecar. So the first movement we'll hit is the Racecar Sweep. This one is amazing to hit the adductors and glute medius, and also really good to stretch out that IT band, which is a common problem for a lot of people.
So this first Racecar Sweep is an excellent way to keep that IT band flexible and dynamic, as well as opening up the hips. So to start this movement, you're going to be on all fours, and as always, get that core nice and active. So with all these movements, you want to get your toe in the donut in that race car. It's very important because we are going to put a little speed on these movements, and with a little speed, we want to make sure we control the cart, and that's what that donut is for. So as you sweep down past the midline of the body, you want to keep that core tight to decelerate all that force. So basically start the movement up, swing it down as that leg passes the midline of the body, use the core to decelerate that. So that's very key in all these movements and everything we do. Use the core as your major decelerator, and the part that we're targeting, which is your hip here, is going to work as a secondary decelerator. So if you do this right, you're going to feel a lot of activation in the core and a nice, good active stretch on that active hip.
All right, so the next movement we're gonna hit flexion extension on the race car, and this is one of my favorites because this hits two very vital areas. We're gonna stretch out front of the hip and at the same time, stretch out the other side glute. So we're getting a 1-2 combo with this awesome movement.
So the second movement is a great way to really stretch out the hip flexors and quads, at the same time activating and strengthening the opposite side hip / butt. So when you start on these movements, like the previous one, we're going to be on all fours with that core very active. So active foot, as always, goes in that donut, and you're going to raise up using your core, using your balance, sweeping that active foot and leg forward. So you want to make sure you come far enough forward so you can sink down into that lead hip. So if you're doing this movement right, as you sink forward and you finish, you should feel a great stretch on the active hip / butt. And on the opposite balancing side, you're going to get a great stretching and lengthening on that quad and hip flexor. So at the finish of this movement, give yourself a nice big pause long enough to sink into that stretch, recenter, kick back, and repeat.
So the last movement we'll do is this really cool side-to-side movement. It's gonna hit some really important and vital areas. We're gonna stretch out that inner thigh, which is a problem area for a lot of people, as well as working on balance and core strength.
So this last movement is a great way to open up the groin slash adductors. So to start this guy, you want to be upright with the cart right on your midline. So your active foot in the donut of the race car should be lined up about with your belly button, your midline. So as you kick out, as always, keep that core active, and you want to drop onto your hands. So you're basically on all fours with the active foot on the cart reaching out to the side. At that point, like everything we do, take a big long pause, keeping the core active, and challenge your range of motion just a little bit. And that's really the way you want to approach all these movements. Push your range just past a little bit of comfort, so we are challenging range of motion but keeping active in control. So as you come up, of course, watch your balance. Bring that foot back to the midline, get that core reactivated, reestablish your balance, then repeat and do it all again.
All right, so I hope that helped. Those are 3 basic movements. Like I said, we can do with sliders, we can do a regs on a smooth surface, and we use a race car. It's been very, very helpful for myself and my clients to get healthy, strong hips and avoiding that knee pain. So, as always, if you have any questions, put in the comments below, hit us up. We'd love to help.